Do you suffer with PCOS and maybe you feel constantly uncomfortable in your body? Do you feel that you have high level of inflammation, but you still don't know how to manage it? Stay tuned because I'm going to give you 5 ways to manage inflammation in your body. Now, if you have been watching my videos before, you probably have heard that one of the types of PCOS is highly inflammatory PCOS. Now, you can have few types of PCOS, and PCOS very often comes with inflammation, and inflammation is the thing that comes with other health conditions as well. So there are ways to lower the inflammation in your body, and we're going to be talking about 5 of them today. Now, I just want to preface that I'm not a doctor and this is not a medical advice. This is just some lifestyle advice that I came across and I checked on myself and it definitely works. So I'm going to be talking about that in an order that I think for me was the most important. Try to experiment and implement a few of them and see what works for you. Now, point number 1 will be to manage stress. Now, what happens in our body when we are stressed? Many people think that meditation, breathing exercises, yoga, and maybe going to therapy to manage stress is just like hippie mambo jumbo. It is not. Now, what happens in our body when we are in stress? So we have this flight or fight response. We have a lot of production of adrenaline and cortisol. If you have ever heard about some people that have shock after an accident, for example, you would hear that they don't feel pain as much. So many times people have cracked bones and they still get up and they do incredible things when they are in the state of shock. And this is due to the fact that you have a lot of adrenaline and cortisol pumping in your body. Cortisol is a hormone that is actually natural anti-inflammatory. If you have ever been given steroid shots or steroids, this is actually synthetic form of cortisol. So cortisol is your natural anti-inflammatory. So think about your ibuprofen, your aspirin, and so on. Those are anti-inflammatory drugs. Now you have cortisol as your natural anti-inflammatory. So in time of stress, your cortisol is pumping, your adrenaline is pumping, and you don't feel the damage that you might actually be doing to your body. So you're super energetic, you over-exercise, you overexert yourself, you don't sleep enough, and you do a lot of those things that later on will come back to haunt you. So example from my life. I feel fantastic and I'm very easily stimulated by adrenaline and by cortisol. So I started running. And I did Couch to 5K. Let me know in the comments if you want to see my experience. I didn't finish it. I can talk about it in the other video. So I feel fantastic, right? And I do all of those things. And there is an inflammation in my body, but I don't feel it due to cortisol. Now, eventually, my cortisol runs out and I become fatigued because my adrenals cannot pump as much cortisol all the time. And then the inflammation, the real horrible face on inflammation comes out. This damage have been there before, but I haven't been feeling it because of cortisol and because of the amount of stress that I have been in. So you can get joint pains, you can get stomach problems, you can get a lot of things that cause you to feel uncomfortable and horrible. If you have ever felt like uncomfortable in your body, this is probably an inflammation talking. So again, when you are in this fight and flight response and you're stressed a lot, you might not even feel the problem. But as soon as you hit rest and repair, you will then feel how bad your body really is. That is why this is so important to manage stress, to lower the time when adrenaline and cortisol are in your body so you can get to rest and repair and you can let your body recover and repair your tissues. If you're constantly stressed, your body will be constantly inflamed. You will never feel that it is inflamed until you hit complete burnout and then you're gonna be fatigued all the time. That is one reason, and the other is of course all low-grade inflammation that might be in your body all the time. But whatever it is, a big amount of stress will cause a lot of inflammation in your body, so make sure that you try managing it, and stuff like walking out in nature are proven to physically lower the levels of cortisol and adrenaline in your body. Walking as well does that. Breathing deeply as well does that, because when we're fight and flight and we're running away from a tiger, our breath becomes very, very shallow, so make sure you do deep breaths few times a day as well, and this is going to help you manage your stress. physically, not in a hippie way. Next thing is going to be controlling your blood sugar. High amounts of sugar as well have been shown to cause increased inflammation in our body because of many reasons. So make sure that you avoid the sugar roller coaster. And how can you do that? Think about your insulin and read about how can you manage your insulin levels throughout the days. I have a playlist about insulin resistance, so make sure you check that as well. There are many ways that you can manage it. There are some people that recommend always combining your sugars with the protein and fat. There are some people that are cutting out carbs just as I do all the time. But there are many ways that you can control your insulin that might be right for your body. So make sure you do a little bit research on that. But for sure, all the experts are gonna agree on the thing that you should not indulge too much in processed foods and too much in processed sugar. So try to keep your insulin at bay and eat as much whole foods as you can, and then see my playlist to see a little bit more in depth on how you could actually manage your blood sugars. Another thing is to try and cut down on inflammatory foods. Now, there are certain foods that have been linked to a lot of inflammation. One of them is sugar. So sugar and high amounts of sugar is being proven to cause a lot of inflammation in our body. So try to cut it out. Everything processed is going to do the same things. So everything that is chemical and will cause stress on your body should go. Another thing is red meat, which I'm talking with a pain in my heart because I love red meat. But red meat should be minimized, or at least you should try and find red meat good quality. Just try mixing it up with stuff that are a little bit more anti-inflammatory that I'm going to be talking about in a minute. The most important thing is try not to overindulge in pork, because pork is also very highly inflammatory. Try also to avoid dairy, or at least dairy that is very highly processed, which is most of our commercial supermarkets, cow's dairy. If you have to choose dairy, try at least go with a goat, because apparently they're less loaded with hormones, or try to find again a local supplier that will actually not pasteurize the milk. Now, what you can do next is load up on anti-inflammatory foods. So here we're gonna have a big push on omega-3 fatty acids. So you know how I mentioned red meat, for example, and especially pork. It has a lot of omega-6 fatty acids that are very inflammatory. So what you want to do is increase omega-3 ratio to omega-6 and make sure that you're eating more omega-3 fatty acids. Now, omega-3s are found in fatty fish, for example, in salmon or sardines and stuff like that, in a pure form. Now, you can also find precursors to omega-3s, like in flaxseed, for example, and other seeds as well. But omega-3s are anti-inflammatory fatty acids, so you are going to want to load up on them as much as you can, because they're going to help you to decrease inflammation in your body. Now, another anti-inflammatory foods can be, for example, turmeric. So you can do your gold milks. Try to use almond milk, for example, instead of cow's milk. So you can do your little turmeric latte, or you can include stuff like ginger. You can also include certain stuff, especially if you have inflammation in your gut, like maybe chamomile, maybe mint, maybe some digestive herbs as well, just to stimulate your bile production as well at the same time. There are plenty of anti-inflammatory foods that you should include in your diet, and you should include a lot of vegetables. Vegetables are very anti-inflammatory. So no matter what diet you're choosing, whether it is vegan, whether it is vegetarian, whether you decide to go gluten and dairy free, or whether you do keto, vegetables should be the base of your diet. And make sure that you eat a lot of leafy greens, because they are very strong anti-inflammatory. You can also include stuff like broccoli as well, for example, broccoli, cauliflower, all the cruciferous vegetables, because they also might help your estrogen levels, especially if you have PCOS. And now the last one that I realize might be a little bit controversial, but it is to lose weight. If you are extremely overweight or obese, you might have a lot of inflammation in your body, and it can be because our fat tissue can produce certain hormones as well, but it can be also due to physical stress that your body is under. So I realized that there is now big movement of health at every size, but I have met a lot of people who, for example, just struggle with a lot of joint inflammation, just due to the fact that there is a lot of weight on their joints. Now, I'm not gonna tell you what to do with your life. It's just in our scientific articles that being overweight or obese can actually influence your inflammatory markers in your body through the array of actually other processes that might be happening. It might be due to high blood sugar, it might be that you have maybe fat liver disease at the same time, maybe you have just a lot of stress on your joints and they are inflamed. So if you are extremely overweight, for example, try and lose weight, and I know it's easier said than done, but especially if you have PCOS, make sure that you see my other videos about insulin resistance, because our insulin resistance makes it very difficult to lose weight. I realize that as a person who has been suffering from bulimia before as well and binge eating. So make sure that you check this playlist about insulin resistance, and hopefully this will help you a little bit in losing weight if that's what you decide to do. So that is it. That is 5 ways to lower inflammation in your body. Make sure you like, subscribe and click the notification bell to be notified about my future videos, and let me know in the comments, do you feel that you have inflammation in your body? If yes, where do you feel you have inflammation? Just a quick sentence from me. I can tell you that feel like I have inflammation everywhere all the time, including my gut, including my joints. I periodically have periods of time when I just feel completely uncomfortable and achy, and I'm super sensitive. So let me know how it is for you in the comments below, and I'll see you soon. Bye.